Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because, wow, do we have a truly fascinating topic to unpack. So let's just dive right in. If you follow consumer tech at all, you know the hype cycle never really sleeps. Today we're dissecting some incredibly detailed insights from Industryiq regarding a massive structural shift coming to the highly anticipated iPhone 18 Pro. And look, what they're proposing here isn't just your standard run-of-the-mill rumor report. No, it's a deep structural look at how the next generation of this flagship device is being engineered from the ground up. We're looking at a scenario that is incredibly unique in modern tech, a narrative of huge, sweeping leaps forward, perfectly counterbalanced by one very specific structural step back. Our goal today is to map out exactly what Industryiq has uncovered, turning this complex report into a clear, easy-to-follow journey for you.
6 massive steps forward. The Industryiq analysis paints a picture of a phone that is relentlessly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in your pocket. We are talking about a completely uncompromising march toward the future. Normally, when a tech giant overhauls a device, they pick maybe one or two areas to really focus on. But what we're seeing mapped out here is a multi-front acceleration. It's basically a tidal wave of feature enhancements hitting you all at once. This isn't just a minor iterative update. It's being positioned as a fundamental reimagining of what the device can do, pushing the throttle to the absolute maximum across a bunch of different hardware and software fronts.
But hold on a second. One giant leap back. You just can't have this much aggressive forward momentum without something eventually giving way, right? Physics, engineering constraints, the realities of the supply chain, they all demand a toll. And that toll is exactly what instantly hooked our curiosity. We aren't just looking at a flawless victory lap of tech here, we are looking at a massive, calculated compromise. Think about it. What happens when a device is so overloaded with futuristic upgrades that the architects literally have to intentionally pull back on something else? That underlying tension is the entire foundation of what we're exploring today.
Section 1. The iPhone 18 Pro Promise. So the source material centers heavily on what they're calling a critical shift, and it's absolutely crucial we understand what this means as an analytical framework before we go any further. A critical shift is not a bug. It's not a manufacturing mistake or some weird oversight. It is a deliberate, major technological trade-off. It happens when engineers decide that unlocking unprecedented advancements in a few areas absolutely requires them to accept a noticeable, structural compromise in another area. It's kind of like a massive tech zero-sum game. You want all these new incredible features? Well, you're going to have to sacrifice this one very specific thing to get them. By framing their analysis around this critical shift, Industryiq is basically telling us that the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro isn't just a list of specs, it's a fascinating case study in modern technological compromise.
Section 2. 6 huge upgrades coming.
6. In the world of mature smartphone design, getting just one or two major upgrades is considered a highly successful year. So for the industry report to explicitly highlight 6 huge upgrades coming all at the exact same time, that builds a profound sense of overwhelming technological advancement. It represents an explosive year in the R&D cycle that is finally bearing fruit all at once.
And let's see how wild this actually is when we look at the specific hardware leaps. The Industryiq analysis specifically groups these advancements into 6 distinct, massive categories hitting the device simultaneously. First off, we're looking at the jump to a groundbreaking 2nm A20 Pro silicon chip, which offers absolutely unprecedented processing density. Second, a completely overhauled camera system featuring a variable aperture main lens that mechanically adjusts to lighting conditions, literally just like a professional DSLR camera. Third, the long-awaited integration of under-display Face ID, which finally maximizes screen real estate and gets rid of the dynamic island cutout completely. Fourth, a massive bump up to 12 GB of unified memory, specifically dedicated to running advanced on-device AI models without ever having to ping the cloud. Fifth, the introduction of a revolutionary stacked battery technology designed for significantly faster power delivery. And finally, number 6, full integration of Wi-Fi 8, which effectively quadruples network throughput capabilities. The overarching point the source material is making here is that the architecture of the iPhone 18 Pro has been optimized on virtually every conceivable front. It is a completely synchronized leap forward.
But at what cost? Whenever a piece of tech promises you the world across 6 different domains, the bill always comes due. We've scaled the mountain of these massive upgrades, sure, but the framework of the critical shift demands we look at the other side of that peak. In hardware engineering, you simply cannot pack in a 2nm chip, variable aperture mechanics, and under-display sensors without hitting a wall.
Section 3. One critical downgrade.
1. Just one. This is a singular, foundational step backward. To counterbalance 6 massive upgrades, this sacrifice has to be incredibly heavy. The source material is very deliberate in isolating this as a solitary issue, which means we aren't talking about a bunch of small random annoyances, but rather one major aggression that every single user is going to feel. The Industryiq report calls this the critical shift, and what it actually amounts to is a substantial, highly noticeable reduction in overall battery endurance. Yep, battery life. Here's why. To physically accommodate that massive new variable aperture camera module, plus the thermal cooling block required to keep that blistering 2nm chip from overheating, they are reportedly forced to significantly shrink the physical capacity of the battery. But that's only half the problem. On top of a smaller battery, constantly powering the under-display Face ID array and keeping 12 GB of RAM active for on-device AI creates a massive continuous power draw. So, for the first time in the Pro lineup's history, users will experience a device that lasts significantly fewer hours on a single charge than the models that came right before it. It's framed as a major structural change in the device's trajectory. It is the necessary sacrifice required to usher in those 6 massive leaps in capability. Understanding this critical shift is absolutely key to understanding the entire philosophy behind this phone's development cycle.
Section 4. Weighing the final verdict.
So, this is the ultimate consumer dilemma, right? Actively weighing 6 massive leaps forward against one fundamental step backward. It really forces us to ask, how much is too much? Does a half-dozen revolutionary features, like a true full screen with 0 cutouts, a DSLR-like variable aperture, and blazing fast on-device AI, do those erase the sting of losing hours of active screen-on time? The Industryiq analysis doesn't try to tell us how to feel about it. Instead, it expertly sets up these scales so that we can see the raw mechanics of smartphone evolution happening right before our eyes.
Industryiq really hit the nail on the head with their summary here. 6 huge upgrades coming and 1 downgrade. This balancing act, the sheer excitement of these generational hardware features, clashing directly with the stark reality of regressing battery life, is the defining narrative of this entire development cycle. It is genuinely a masterclass in understanding how modern devices are planned, executed, and ultimately compromised.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question for you to consider. Is the trade-off worth it? When it comes time for your next upgrade cycle, are you willing to accept a critical shift, a really noticeable drop in battery endurance, in exchange for 6 undeniable steps into the future of mobile computing? That is a question only you can answer. But hey, thanks to the fantastic framework provided by Industryiq, you now have the structural context to actually make that decision. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you on the next one.